Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to talk about a hotly contested subject here in Bend. I'm almost scared to even bring it up because it's kind of like picking on Thanos of the Bend cinematic universe, you know? So go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe on the way in because we're going to get started right now. Bend Parks and Rec, or BPRD for short. The crown jewel of Bend. I wouldn't or couldn't have imagined a more involved Parks and Rec if I tried. If you would ask me 20 years ago to design the most elaborate Parks and Rec division possible, I still wouldn't have envisioned this. Parks and Rec basically does it all here. Especially considering that here in Bend we are in such a recreational mecca. It's amazing and impressive how dominant Parks and Rec is. What do I mean by dominant? In a town of about 100,000 people, there are over 80 parks. 80. That was a pause for dramatic effect. There are 65 miles of trails managed by BPRD in Bend. The facilities are world class and feature Olympic swimming pools, lazy river pools, children's splash pads, multiple state-of-the-art fitness centers, an ice rink, pickleball courts, skate parks, volleyball courts, dozens of fields including turf fields, a whitewater park. I mean, there's literally no expense spared. They transformed the Deschutes River into a whitewater park and included a permanent surfing wave. And it is all pretty awesome. In fact, to learn more about all of the features that Park and Rec has, you can check out this other video right up here. I'll sit here and wait for you to come back. Go check it out now and I'll just wait. Anyway, all this awesomeness comes at a cost. What cost, you ask? Again, let me reiterate that I'm a big fan of Parks and Rec and a customer and a supporter. But they have a massive budget, huge budget, like a mega budget. Okay. It's like $35 million, and that was just last year alone. Whoa! So that's huge. Where does the money come from? Well, it's largely taxpayer funded, but not any taxpayer. No, it's really more property taxes. You see, BPRD collects their revenue from three different sources: property taxes, SDCs, and usage fees. You know, when you actually pay for a class or a program. So property taxes vary greatly by the property. It's actually one of those topics that I could do a video on, but nobody would watch it because it's boring. Anyway, roughly 10% of your property taxes go to BPRD, which equates to the largest revenue producer for them. Last year, property taxes raised $19.8 million for BPRD, and this happens every year. SDCs stand for System Development Charges. So when you build a new house, or, buy a new construction home, anytime you're building a new home, the builder, as a part of applying for the permits, is required to pay these SDCs. And these charges are for the, systems of Bend. So, road infrastructure, sewer and water infrastructure, and, parks. Now these SDCs are not cheap for an average house. It's around $30,000, but it varies a ton depending on different factors, right? And BPRD's portion of these system development charges are no exception. In fact, on average, $8,800 of those SDCs go to Bend Parks and Rec for every home that's built. That's a huge chunk of change when you're buying a new house. I mean, you don't really feel it because it's just kind of all wrapped into the sticker price, but wouldn't a house be $8,800 less if we didn't have to give all that money to Parks and Rec? So what if you don't use their parks or their facilities or sports programs Or trails. Anyway, the SDCs last year accumulated to about $6.8 million. Just last year. The third way the BPRD collects revenue is through registration fees that are actually paid for participating in actual programs. So when you go to the ice rink and it costs you $15 to go to open skate, or when you sign up junior here to go play in the youth soccer program, or when you want to catch a Zumba class. To me, this is a far more realistic way to operate business, and coincidentally, it is exactly how, private businesses operate. They rely on the income of the customers to pay for the, expenses accrued by the business, instead of just grabbing tax dollars. But hey, if they only charged for the services, they'd be way behind on their budget, because last year the usage fees collected alone were only $8.7 million. So between the 19.8 in property taxes, the 6.8 in SDCs, which, by the way, both of those only come from property owners. So if you rent, you're good. And the $8.7 million in usage fees, Parks has a pretty huge budget. Oh, but there's one more way that Parks and Rec can raise money, and that's through a public bond measure. This is when an expense is placed on the ballot, and voters can either choose to approve it or not. Back in 2012, voters approved a $29 million bond measure pass for Parks and Rec, which again, only applies to property owners. For the construction of the Bend Pavilion Ice Rink, the Deschutes River Whitewater Park, which was originally called a Safe Water Passage, until people got hurt and it wasn't safe. Anyway, and a bunch of trails and park maintenance and stuff like that. They changed the Deschutes River. It's awesome, no lie. There's a year-round surfing wave and a series of pools and drops to get you through this massive whitewater area. It's awesome. Oh, and the ice rink was sorely needed here in Bend. I'm on it multiple times every week. But my only criticism is that they could have added walls. Because, ice is impossible to keep frozen 8 out of the 12 months out of the year. So, we have a beautiful state-of-the-art ice rink that we can only use for 4 months. Walls, people. Walls. So, don't get me wrong, I love Parks and Rec. And they provide amazing resources, park programs, facilities, and experiences that enrich the lives of the people of Bend, but largely at the expense of property owners. And with property expenses at already all-time highs, do we really need to keep funding the greatest Parks and Rec department that the Western Hemisphere's ever seen? I will leave that for you to decide. And hopefully nobody from the Parks and Rec department sees this and decides to ban me for life either. Until next week, go ahead, smash that like button and leave a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. I hope nobody from Parks and Rec sees this and decides to, ban my account for the rest of my life. Your name is John Kromm? Oh, yeah, no. It says here that you're not allowed to register for any programs anymore through Parks and Rec. Ever. You've been banned. You can no longer come play hockey with us anymore. Nope. Your kids can't either. Suck!